Good day, everyone. This demonstration will be in CATIA, and it will be on how to do assemblies in CATIA, which is pretty much the same as other CAD software. Let me try this again. Pretty much the same as other CAD software packages function. So if you notice, I have the CATIA screen here, and I'm going to go File, New. Okay, and this time I'm going to go down and scroll down to Product. And this time I'm just going to call my product Example. Okay, let's not do that. I need to go down to Product again and then hit Enter. And then we have a product. Now immediately what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have all your assembly files loaded and saved in the same location. So if you find your files, they will show up as a zip file. So let me show you here where I have these files at. Okay, so then you can actually see what you got, and just to make sure you understand how to do these. Okay, so I'm going into Assemblies, and I'm going to go into Assembly 1. Okay, what you'll have here then is this subdirectory called Assembly 1, and notice it is, if we expand it out, a compressed zip file. Okay, so I'm going to copy that file here, and this time I'm just going to place it on the desktop and paste it. And so then if you go to that file and just double click on it, it'll open up the file, and then you want to take these files here, these four, the base, the bushing, the roller, and the shaft, the support, and you want to copy them into a different file. So let's just say I copy this one into a file that I call Assembly. Okay, so I open up the assembly file, and then I copy or I paste this back in there. So you have these files here that are going to make up the assembly. And you've placed them in a subdirectory called Assembly. Okay, in this case on my desktop. You can place it wherever you want. And then what you want to do is when you basically open an assembly file, you want to make sure that that assembly file goes into the same subdirectory or folder as where your files, your CAD model files exist. Assembly files by nature are small files. Most of the information on them is a pointer. It points back to different locations on the assembly. Okay, different locations from the assembly file back into parts. All the information for these things is basically housed in a part. So now going back to CATIA here, I'm going to then point out some things. One is notice that it came into something called product structure. Okay, so always look over here and make sure you're where you think you're at. So I go over here right away, I go under Mechanical Design, and I would go into Assembly Design. Now they call it Assembly Design here, and they call it Product over here. Why? Well, that's unbeknownst to me, okay? But that's what they call it, okay? So now, in my situation, I've got this product, and I'm going to file and save this back. I'm going to save as, and then I'm going to go to my computer. I'm going to go to my H drive here. I'm going to go to CGT163, and I am going to basically place it in this folder here, okay? In this folder here, okay? So I'm going to just call it then Example 01. So I'm placing it into that folder. Again, if you don't have it there, what happens, the file will open up, it'll try to find where those part files are at, and you won't be able to find them. They don't ask you to locate or map drives to finding them. So always keep those in the same subdirectory. When you submit this file, you will zip that file, that subdirectory down, and you'll submit the product file or the assembly file along with all the parts that make up the assembly. That's called associativity. It associates that file, which is the assembly file, back to the part files. So with that said, let's go ahead and create then, start to create this assembly. But before I do that, I'm going to actually open up and show you what the assembly is going to look like when it's done. Okay, so I'm going to go into here and I'm going to open this one up here, and then here is the file we're actually working on. Okay, so again, I'm turning it around here, and you will have a screenshot of this available to you in here. But again, notice you have the product, you have a base here, you have two instances of the support. These are both off the same part. You have two instances of the bushing, again off the same part. You have a shaft that goes through the middle of it, and then you have the bell roller, which is the thing on top. So this is what you're actually going to end up with. And notice you show these constraints on here. So again, that is what we're actually going to end up with. Okay, but now back to the assembly thing. Notice now I'm in product mode, or assembly. There's two gears. Okay, and I'm going to go through here and I'll pull out some of these different icons here, toolbars. Okay, toolbar here, toolbar here. Come on, move. Okay, that one there. This one right here. Can get this on the turn for some. There we go. Okay, this one here. Some of these I'm just going to leave off. I'm not going to be too concerned with here. Okay, so I'll leave it out of the way there. Product structure tools. Like the thing says, it's how you structure the product. How do you put the assembly together? Okay, and there's different ones here. You have component, product, part, existing component with positioning. Okay, we're going to do a bottom-up approach. In other words, we have these existing components here. We're going to put those together to form an assembly or a product. Now, within that, once you get one built, you can also build within the assembly. You can also put in a new part. You can start a new product. Or you can put in here an existing component. Could be another sub-assembly within an assembly. In other words, if you had a car, you have the total top end of the car would be the car, then you would have powertrain, body, interior. Within a powertrain, you would have engine. Within the engine, you would have the water pump. So those all be sub-assemblies. So the first thing you want to do here is go in here and you want to then highlight what you're going to put these things into. So I have to start at the very top of this product. I'm going to highlight that, and I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do the existing component. Okay? If you don't highlight this, this won't show up. So what I want to bring in first is the base. Okay, so I'm going to double click on the base. Wait here a second. And then the base comes in. And don't worry about this sign here. It's just saying disregard that. So now if you look at the base here, okay, and let me see if I can get this thing as for my specification tree. Make it a little bit bigger, easier to see. Okay, there we go. Makes this easier to see here. So there's the base. Now, if I look at my specification tree, I have a product in here. The product is example 1. I have one part here called the base, but there's nothing else in here. So in other words, at this point in time, the product, or this part, the base and the product, which is called example 1, is free in space. You can move it anywhere. So what we want to do is we want to basically take this base by highlighting it, and we want to constrain it. Here's your different constraints out here. These are grayed backs, they're not applicable. We have the fixed component constraint, and you have these other two which we're not going to deal with. So again, I highlight this, and I'm going to click that, and what that does is it brings this part in from it places in the assembly roll coordinate the same location that it would be. Its 000 location in a part roll coordinate will come into the assembly 00 location, and that's how it's placed. So we have that one part in here. So now I'm going to go ahead and go to the top of the product, and I'm going to bring in another part. So again, that's been constrained by the one fixed constraint right in here. It says the base one has been constrained. So I'm going to go over, highlight again at the top of the product, bring in another part, and this time I want to bring in the support. Okay, and realize in the support, its 00 location is going to come in to the same location in the world coordinate space. So now if I zoom out on this a little bit, I can get it to work here. Now, I have this part sitting here, but I want to assemble this part to this base. There's a couple ways. We want to just take this thing and move it off. So I grab the compass where I get the 4 lines in the upper right hand corner, and I place it somewhere on here. Now notice, I zoom on this thing a little bit, I can then take and I can move the part by the compass. And so if you look at this thing, I'm just grabbing lines of this compass here. So if I want to turn it, okay, you can see the Y, Z, and the axis on here. I can turn it then. All this is doing is just moving this part in space. This thing is not constrained. And the only reason why I'm moving this is just to make it easier for me to get in and put the constraints on. Okay, so I have it somewhere out there, and now I'm just going to grab it, drop it down to here, click off. Now this time I want to use the coincidence constraint. So I want to say, well, I want to have, just turn that off when it comes up. I want to have then the axis, by grabbing the inside of that cylinder, be coincidental with the axis here. Okay, and it's going to put a constraint on there. Notice it hasn't moved at all, and notice there's the regeneration button here. Okay, and I'm not going to mess with that. Then I'm going to come over here and I say, oh, let's put then this axis so it'll align or make it coaxial with that one. Puts a second constraint in here. Now notice if we go to the update all button, I can put that in here, and now notice that this thing, if you go through here, is constrained, but it is not constrained up and down. So again, to give myself more room, I'm going to go over here and put the compass on here again, and I didn't grab it right. Let me turn this command off. Take the compass here, grab it, and put it on this plane here, where it turns green, and I'll pull this thing up off the top a little bit, and then grabbing the compass again, dragging it off. Now again, I'm going to use this time I'm going to use what's called the offset constraint. Always avoid using the contact constraint because it's too limiting. On the offset constraint, you can do the same thing as the contact constraint, but then you can put distances in here. So I'm going to say, okay, I want to grab then this plane here, and I'll get this thing to rotate on you. This plane here, and now notice you have information here. Notice the offset is 65.877. I want to set that to 0, hit OK, and now if I update this thing, it is then going to then put that thing into place, and then that part is fully constrained. So then I'm just going to do this again. I'm going to just replicate this. I'm going to go to the product here. I'm going to bring in a second instance. It's the same part of the support. And wait a second while it loads up. I'm going to grab my compass, stick it on one thing here, drag it off. Again, maybe drag it up some. Turn it a little bit. Doesn't really matter here, just trying to get it to the point where it's easier just to see it and work with it. So maybe grab a little bit more, pan down, take the compass off, drop it back over here. Again, I'm going to use this coincidence constraint axis to axis here, axis to, come on, turn on me. Oh, come on. There we go. To axis. Okay, I'm going the axis here, and we have that one. Let's update it. It's showing it there, and then let's put an offset constraint from here to this plane here. Hit OK, or make that 0. Hit OK, update it, and we have that thing into place. Now in the virtual world, it doesn't really matter how these things are assembled, okay? It doesn't matter how they're assembled. So now again, I'm going to go click on the product, and this time I'm going to bring in the bell roller. So the bell roller is going to come in, let's see here, the roller is going to come in here. Wait a second, comes in the middle of this thing again. So disregard that message. So again, I'm going to bring this over and place it on, I can get it on here. I guess I am on the axis of this thing, so I'll place it there. We'll pull it out, just over here somewhere, just to get it off. so I can see it, and then I'm going to then drag it back, place it here. Now there's 2 bushings that go in the bell roller, so again I'm going to go to the product, and I'm going to bring in the first bushing. And again, notice that it comes in over here, so zoom up, zoom over here, zoom up, and take my compass again, placing it on here. Let's pull this bushing out over here somewhere, and I'll go ahead and drag it all the way over here. Okay, take my compass and put it back. And now I'm going to use then again this command to make it coaxial, which is your coincidence command, from there to there. Okay, and then I'm going to go, then I'm going to make this plane here made up against this one. So again, I'm going to grab the plane right here up against this plane here, and I'm going to give that as a 0 value. Hit OK. Then I'm going to update this thing. Now notice that this thing comes in backwards. That's the beauty about this constraint here, using this offset constraint. So now if I go back in the offset constraint and I go to more, I can go and make these vector normals here. Instead of being the same direction, I can make them in the opposite direction. Hit OK, update it, and it puts the thing into place. So I'm just going to repeat this operation on the other side. So again, zoom in all here, and I'm going to then go to the product in here, and I'm going to bring in then another bushing, and wait a second here, and I'm going to repeat this process by placing the compass on the axis of the bushing, dragging it back over here a ways, maybe a little bit further even. Rotate this around, maybe not that far. Go back out here. Maybe drag it a little bit further this way, and then rotate this thing around. Take my compass off here for a second, putting it over here, and then rotating this thing up and around like so. Okay, so again, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the axis of both these, and we have that other constraint in here. Okay, you can see that down at the bottom. Okay, then I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to go to the offset constraint. I'm going to grab this plane right here, and this plane over here, and I'm going to make this value 0. Hit OK, update it, and let's see what it looks like. We have that. Okay. Now I'm going to go. Now let's go into here, and we have the constraints here. I'm going to shut these back down. I'm going to go to the bell roller part. So I'm going to open it up in here, open up into here. Now notice I'm in product mode right here, but if I double click on that part, it's going to then drop this into part mode. Okay, so I'm just looking at this part, or dealing with this part. Well, in this case here, I'm going to grab the shaft, I'm going to go to the properties of it, and I'm going to go to the feature properties, and the graphic properties, and let's make this thing transparent about that much. Apply it, and hit OK. Now you can actually see through that thing and see what we have going there. Okay. Now to get back into product mode, all I have to do is double click up here, and we're back in product mode. Okay. So again, now I want to bring in another part, and this time it's going to be the shaft. Maybe. Okay. Here's the shaft. Okay. Close that. Notice the shaft is sitting down here, so you know, this time I can probably get that shaft on there without actually without doing much. So I'm going to take the shaft, and I'm going to put the shaft into place on this part right here. So again, I'm going to go, this time I'm going to go to, let's go ahead and do it. Grab this axis here and turn the this thing around a little bit. Grab the axis there, put that one on. Let's rotate this thing then. And then I'm going to grab then this plane here, right there, and rotate this around to there, and grab that plane there, and I'm going to give that value 0, hit OK. I want to update it, and notice we have, now that axis can turn at that point, but at this point we really don't care if it turns or not. So then I'm going to come over here, I'm going to say, okay, now this time I'm going to grab then these two parts, okay? So I'm going to go, and since this part is holding these two parts into place, I'm going to say I want to go coincident off of here, okay, to the x-axis there. And now I'm going to make then this one side here, right here, and I'm going to turn this around, maybe. Come on, turn on me. Right to here, make that 0, hit OK, update it, and then we have the bell roller assembly. Okay, the bell roller assembly. Maybe go over here and turn and hide your constraints so they don't show up. And so then if you do things within the part, okay, so let's say I would go through here and I would change, let's just look at a support. Okay, so there's two instances of one part file. So if I go to the second one here, go into support, go clear down to the part body, okay, and let's go to the sketch of the support horizontal. So we'll go into this sketch. Notice it's this part over here. So let's go here and change this value. Instead of being 39, let's change it to 50. Hit OK. It's going to push that thing way out. Now again, if I come over here and X this out, notice since I changed that one part, remember there's only one part in here, it changed both instances of that part. Okay, so realize you're dealing with one single part where you're doing instances of that single part. I want to bring this thing back, hit undo to where it was at. I hope I didn't go too far. I'm getting a little impatient. Have it there, going back in this viewpoint right in here, and then that is that one. So that's a quick visualization on how to do that particular one. I'm going to close this out. Okay. And no, I don't want to change that. And I'm going to look at then the second one here, the anti-vibration mount. Okay. So let's go to this one. Now here's the anti-vibration mount here. Okay. Again, you have a base, this yoke plate right in here. You have two bushings that go along this hex bolt that has a nut on the end of it, and that's how you assemble this one. It's going to be the same technique. Bring in the base feature, which would be the yoke. Then I would bring in the body. Okay, and I think there's even nope. And then put the bushings into the body. Kind of move it off the side. Put the bolt on here, and then put the nut on it. Notice there'll be no threads. They're called cosmetic threads. And then bring this part, the body part, back in the bushings on it, and it should solve exactly the same way as we did the other one. And this should show you how to do some assemblies. Now, most of the assemblies work the same way in all these different CAD packages. So with that said, have good luck with these assemblies, and everybody have a nice day, evening, or whatever it may be in your part of the world. Bye-bye.